So, good evening. Welcome everyone. It's very nice to be with you tonight. I don't recognize all the smiles. Some new smiles in the room. So my name is Eric, and anyone coming for the first time? Or yes, the new smiles are here. Okay, welcome. And it will be in English, right? Not in Tamil or Hindi or French. English, okay. And I came here feeling that I'm coming in the living room. That's why I brought my little, actually, lemon hot juice in case my throat goes funny. And feeling that I'm going to meet some friends. And I usually don't like the idea of being told you're giving a lecture. I say, I hope I don't give a lecture. Because this is like very official, and I know it's good sometimes to go for lectures, but I hope tonight we can just feel it's like a very natural sharing. And my personal journey in spirituality, I've been with the Brahma Kumaris for over 30 years. And I started fairly young. I was searching for deeper meaning, I think, in life. Like many people, I was hitting walls in schools, in universities, in relationships, in families, in the world, really wondering what we were doing on the planet and searching for some purpose. And when I found the Brahma Kumaris, I found an incredible international organization with amazing people from all over the world. And what I liked very much was the ability to, of course, connect with a few, not with everyone, but with a few, where I felt that their thoughts could really help me move forward in my own journey, in my own thinking. And I hope tonight I can just share with you a few of my personal experiences, and if it can help you in moving forward on your own journey. And I'll be happy to hear also about your journey as well. So welcome to the living room of time. And the thought came to me about mastering time, because I think it's a very, very important issue, but on many different levels. And so this is going to be the first session out of 3. There will be 2 more, next 2 Fridays. And as you know, time has 3 dimensions. There might be actually a 4th one, but we'll address 3 dimensions of time that are very simple: past, present, future. And unless I'm mistaken and you are extraterrestrial beings in the human body, which we all have to connect with the past, the present, and the future, isn't it? And sometimes the past can have a big impact on the self. Sometimes present also is relevant and impactful, and some have a hard time thinking about the future, and they worry a lot about the future. So the purpose of these 3 sessions is to help us to rethink the way we connect with time. So if you were expecting a course on time management and scheduling your business meetings and finding ways to squeeze 48 hours in 24, see me afterwards. I can share other thoughts. But it won't be about this kind of business approach to time. It's going to be a spiritual approach to time. And this first session will be really looking at the past, how to work with the past. Before I go into it, I just want to really highlight a little bit why I came to think that way, and why it feels for me that it's very important to rethink our relationship with time. And it's because in our philosophy, we're told that there's a beautiful expression in Hindi called Trikaldarshi, the one who can see the 3 aspects of time. And they show some gods and goddesses in the Hindu mythology that have this unique power to be able to understand any situation by knowing where it comes from, where it stands and where it's going. And we're told that if you don't understand the three aspects of time, and if you don't view or see the three aspects of time, but only one, that aspect of time becomes a jail. It becomes a form of limitations. And in being stuck in the present, or stuck in the past and the future, or in just 2 out of 3, sometimes we miss the trajectoire, the happening really. Because sometimes it's very fascinating to see that, as you all know, certain things happen for a reason, isn't it? And sometimes we don't see the reason, and we just miss the opportunity. Just to give you an example, tonight I was having to pick up my car basically at the garage, and it's always an adventure. I think cars when they get old, and I think my attachment to cars has to be settled at some point. So every journey to the mechanic is an adventure, and I thought this one would be straightforward, but the last few ones haven't been. So I went to pick up my car. So glad initially to know that it was ready and the price was what it was said, and okay, I'm looking forward to get my car, new tires, winter tires, and many things were fixed. And just when I turned on the engine, phew, all kind of lights came on, and I said, well, it seems like it's worse than when I came to bring it up. And there were some things that indicated a problem. And the person told me, oh yeah, sorry, the piece that they sent us, I told him not to send that one, and it's creating a little problem, so your brakes are not going to work well. I said, well, that is a problem, because I prefer having good brakes, going to... So anyway, and I was understanding that I had an issue with time suddenly, because I wanted to be here on time. So suddenly I have to go back again. And then so I decided, okay, let's go back in a bus and just, okay, fine, it's a journey, and let's check that nothing happens in my thinking, no irritation, no impatience. So I give blessing to the mechanic, knowing it's not his fault, and I said, well, tomorrow will be okay. And so initially I thought, well, okay, this is happening. And then suddenly I remembered that somebody sent me a message that I didn't read fully and didn't reply to. And so it happened that actually this whole journey back on the bus became an online conversation with someone at a very deep level, exactly on the topic of handling your past. And someone who was really struggling with what to do with the past, and how that past was really creating such a big problem. And I thought, what an interesting way to prepare the chit-chat in the evening than having a conversation on the bus. And I really actually enjoyed the bus ride coming back, and I realized that everything happened, and if I understand where I stand in that situation, in one hand I'm settling my karma with the car, which is fine, I accept that. I'm taking benefit of the present instead of complaining about the past, and most likely creating a better future. So those three aspects of time are so connected, and we can't just fix the present without looking at our relationship with the past and the future. And we can't just have a good future or a better future without looking at the present and probably the past too. So the three are completely interconnected. And although sometimes we wish we could just, forget the past and leave the past behind and just enjoy the present, we still find ourselves, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes having flashback and feelings and things coming from the past, which I'm not sure what to do with again. So it's a little bit the context of the three sessions I want to share with you. Is that okay? Do you have anything in your mind pressing now, or any thought, or any question, or any reflection? Anyone? I said that on Wednesday because now there's so many work construction going on. Anyone was coming to a restaurant tonight and realized they're in the wrong place? No? You all came for that, right? Yeah?
So is it really important to look at the past in order to move on for
So the question, yes, and we'll use the mic as soon as we can. The question was if it's really important to look at the past if we want to move forward, I would say yes, absolutely, because I'll show you hidden things you may be carrying from the past, which really need to be addressed. And maybe there's nothing, and maybe you'll come to a conclusion that I don't need to. Everything is settled, and congratulations if that's happening. But I'll share a few thoughts that might be worth considering to look at the past. So, ready? Now, first session will be about the past. And our relationship with the past is such that my experience is that past can be a burden. It could be, in French we say you're carrying your bullet. I don't know if it's an English expression, or like jail people, when they're in jail, sometimes to walk. I don't know if it's only in cartoon and in French cartoon, but they used to represent a jail person with striped clothes and a big iron bullet attached to the heels, and he has to carry that so he doesn't run away, right? And so the feeling sometimes is that the past can become something like that, just a break, something that's keeps coming back in my conscience and hold me back. Anyone has that experience? Yeah, sometimes. Anyone feel that there's something in the past that they wish they could just delete and never think about again? Anything in the past you wish you would have never done, or that things would never have been done to you? I'm sure if you dig a little bit, there must be a few things. I presume no one is a serial killer here, so no, fine. It's okay, we are very loving, But just, so I'm not going to address excessive amount of trauma from the past, because this becomes almost a clinical matter. So I always want to make sure that we understand. I'm not going to share ideas which, could be really applying to massive traumatic experiences from the past, because they have to be dealt a little bit differently. But I'm talking about fairly normal past with ups and downs and dramas, could be really bad relationships with parents, with family members, with teachers, could be up to a certain form of abuse, could be forms of depressions, forms of failures in the past. But also the past is not just a burden. Past is also sometimes, how do you call that, a springboard? A springboard that allows you to jump forward or jump higher. And the past actually carries with itself precious tools to make us move forwards in the present. So in that way I would say that past is not just something that we want to forget. It's actually something we want to remember. And there's certain things that are really worth remembering, because they're an indication of something about us that we may have forgotten. In our philosophy, we have we have a funny, French word, we have a funny paradoxical approach, one in which we say, past is past. And on the other hand, we have a beautiful song that says, remember the days of your childhood. So, what do? And we think that sometimes, on a spiritual level, when we're told, remember the days of your childhood, it's not to remember how we were when we're 5 years old, but it's to remember how things start. Remember how your best relationship started. Remember how your first employment, maybe, that's really were thrilling for you, started. Remember how your first victory over certain things happened. And I'm sure that if we were to do a little bit of a meditation, forcing you to recollect countless days of your past, you would be amazed about how many wonderful memories are recorded in the self, isn't it? So there must be wonderful ones. So what do we do with these? And sometimes you may wait for your 75th anniversary, and other people will do the job for you, and they will collect photographs and old pictures, and suddenly you look at it and say, oh my goodness, that was a long time ago. And then you revisit your past, isn't it? Sometimes people do that to commemorate a landmark, 75 years or 80 years, something like that. And of course, they tend to only bring nice pictures. The bad ones, they may want to just leave them aside. It was a terrible relationship that ended terribly. They might want to just not bring that up in the celebration so that they don't spoil your 80th anniversary. So we do have lovely, good memories. And what I hope to share with you tonight is that, to me, they hold magic recipes to make me much better today as a person. And it takes sometimes people to remind us of the beauty of our past. So we refresh ourselves in such a way that we reconnect with that beauty and reignite it again. Some relationships become a little bit stagnant after a while, isn't it? Sometimes it's like routine, and then sometimes the love disappears a little bit in a relationship and it becomes very practical business relationship. There's nothing wrong sometimes in remembering the beautiful moments that we shared with someone, just to reignite the love in the relationship. And I might argue that it might be actually quite necessary sometimes to do so. Otherwise, the way we look at the person ages, as our outlook becomes a little bit ordinary. So past can have those two dimensions: a burden, a bullet we carry, or a springboard that we want to use in order to move forward. There's one law I find very interesting towards the past, which is that past cannot be changed. But what can be changed? Past, you can't change it. It's past. You can't rewind. You can't make it happen differently. But what can we change?
The way we view it.
The way we view it.
The feelings.
The belief. Mm-hmm. The future. Yeah. What can we change about the past?
Can we change about the past?
Yeah. I mean, we cannot change the past, but what can we change about our thoughts? Yeah. Even something deeper than all that. I mean, it's true. All this is true. You can add to that also the lessons that we can learn from the past. We can always realize that there's a lesson to learn from something. Sometimes we don't want to learn. At the moment that thing happened, you don't welcome it as a beautiful teacher teaching you something so wonderful. But maybe 10 years later, you might see there was a purpose. So all this is real. But I would say one deeper, most fundamental aspect of the past that we actually really want to change, and that needs to be changed when the past is actually negative. And it's the impact the past left on the soul, left on the self. You see, if somebody comes today and with a big bulldozer and breaks the building across the street, fine, you can't rewind, and what you're watching now is a damaged building, isn't it? So, isn't it that sometimes we look at the past in such a way that we look at the damaged building and we keep repeating for the rest of our life, such a bad thing happened. Look, it's damaged. And then 10 years later, look how bad it was. The building is all damaged. That would be a little bit silly things to do, isn't it? I mean, in a city, what they would do at some point, they will fix it. And I would say, yes, it was terrible. Somebody just banged in the wall and the wall was broken. But we can fix it. The thing that happened is that when the past hurts, we don't know how to fix it. And we're stuck with the wound and we don't know what to do with the wound. And every time we push the wound or we put our finger on it, it hurts even more. So we keep saying, there's still a wound. And then we keep saying, that's because of the past. Maybe with time, after 50 years, some people say, well, time heals, isn't it? Or time makes us forget what happens. I think we all become a little bit, our memory fades away with time, which is really what happened. The memory of the pain disappears. But technically speaking, the wound is still there. And if we were to find ourselves in a situation that would actually touch again that wound, even though we may have forgotten about it, it will surface again. And
Sorry, interrupted.
No, go ahead.
Time doesn't heal.
Well, if forgetting is about healing, it does help a little bit, but time doesn't heal. I don't think that time really heals. Time makes us feel as if we heal because it just, allowed. It's actually not time that heals, it's the process going on inside that really heals. Some people, after 50 years, time is the same. They've been 50 years. They haven't healed at all. So time, it's not the time really that heals. It's that the process we go through over time really heals. If we go through the process. If we keep insisting on the pain, I just watched, I don't know if any one of you, no, it was in French, but the documentary, investigative documentary on French Radio-Canada about abuse in the church and this terrible thing of the past. People who were abused in the 50s. And today they talk about it, they cry, their whole life has been ruined because of that. And the pain is still so vivid, 70 years later. And they're just about to die and they will die with that pain. So for me, this is very important because if it's possible not to do that, well, I think we would all love to know how to remove that wound, isn't it? So it really heals. And so my understanding of what we learn in spirituality is that I cannot change the past, but I can understand what the past did on me. And then I can learn how to fix it, how to repair it. And I give you just one example, which is quite actually applying to a lot of situations. Many things that happen in the past, which translates into being hurt, actually, most of the time, these things, what they do is that they damage the self-respect, the self-worth, or the self-esteem of the person. And again, I'm going into a very depressing example, but time as a springboard is coming later in the evening, so don't worry, there will be good positive thoughts shared later. But in the dark side, when I was listening to these people who were abused sexually and physically in their youth, they all have the same expression. They felt worthless. They were little boys, little girls, 7 years old, 12 years old, innocent, pure. There was nothing wrong with them. They were just like going to mass, helping, doing good things, praying. And suddenly, such a bad thing happened. And I'm taking an extreme case now, but these abuse, what they did in every case was leaving an impression on these people, on these young kids, that they were wrong. That was their fault. And if you study about abuse, this is the common pattern. To a different degree. I was abused by my French teacher, not physically, but verbally. And we thought it was normal because he was French. And so we thought, that's how French people speak, Mr. Le Reste, you are again very bad. And he was making me, how do you call it in English? He was mocking me in front of everyone, putting me down, because I was making mistakes in French. And I was not good in French. My French was actually bad. And I suspect it's because I didn't like my teachers. They were really not inspiring me, and I hated French classes. And I was very good at that time, less now, but I was very good at that time in Spanish because I loved my Spanish teacher. She was making paella for us, and then we go and eat paella at her place sometimes. So I thought that was good. So I became good in Spanish, very bad in French. But the French teacher, and, we're talking in the, what is it, 20th century, I think? A long time ago. It was accepted in a school that teacher were almighty. And they could mock someone like me, in front of everyone. And they will give, the test to everyone, and he'll keep mine, I was not the worst, but among the last worst. And he will wait and say, okay, now, Mr. Lorest, my name. And then he will make fun of me in front of everyone. And of course, I understood that this attitude was making me angry, feeling really bad. But what it really created at that time for me as a young kid was a terrible sense of being bad, a terrible sense of being unfit for success. And I became very shy afterwards in talking in public. And I know it's connected to that. I can now say I overcome that, but it took a little while. But it was really, I could feel that most of the abuse, most of the pain we feel, most of the situations from the past that hurts the self, either because we did something bad or something bad was done to us, leaves a mark on the self, which lowers our self-esteem, our self-trust, our self-respect. And if that keeps on going on again and again, again and again, people tend to become so deprived from their self-worth that they become sometimes quite dysfunctional. So we try to fix things from broken past. Cheating, lying, abusing, back. Abusers are usually very often former victims as well, and they become abusers. We try to go around the system, pretending we can develop big egos just to hide the fact we're really empty inside. I know I'm going very, very dark side of the soul, but it's just one part of the past that I'm trying to put the finger on. Because I think we all have some of these little dark spots in our past. And so these moments can't be changed. I did big mistakes in my life, really silly one, some more serious, some that had consequences. Some choices I've made in my life that I really regret, that I feel that is such a bad thing to do. I didn't kill anyone or went that way, but just in case you feel. But there was kind of moments where I really regretted it. I felt that was really not good. I feel I did things that created shame, things that I feel afterwards were so ordinary and so contrary to what I expect our behavior to be that I feel ashamed. Even though when other people hear about it, they would say, well, there's nothing wrong. I mean, everybody does that. Yeah, but to me it's contradictory to what I expect myself to be. And so if we expect high from us, little mistakes are amplified 10 times. And so the impact is also amplified 10 times. So all these little situations from the past, we can forget about it. Or we can assess what these situations have really damaged in me. And I would argue that area to look at is actually that self-esteem. And our approach in spirituality is that if I can enhance my self-esteem to a very beautiful and pure and true way, our experience is that suddenly from that self-esteem, looking back at the past changes completely how I feel about it and what I think about it. And what really makes people able to forgive or to forget is not just by because of time, feeling, okay, now it's over time, I have to forgive or forget, is because over time they have learned to think of themselves as a good person. And they have rebuilt that self-esteem through a lot of therapy sometimes, through a lot of positive affirmation, through small little successes and then big successes sometimes. And they come to a point of time when they think they're just ready to forgive or forget. But actually what they have reached is a state of self-esteem that is enough to counter the impact of the past. Another example is anger. And certain actions that we performed in the past were based on anger, isn't it? Anyone who never felt angry in their life? We have diplomas for being a saint available at the door. If you have never been angry in your life, you know, most of us go through anger. What happened through anger? Anger really, can we be really sweet, loving, and adorable and angry at the same time? I don't think so, no. Usually it doesn't match very well. And think that if we were to be taking pictures of us when we're angry and yelling, do you think you might want that picture on your passport saying, well, this is me? I think you might be stopped at customs, isn't it? Have you ever seen a picture of you being angry? I don't think we have been taking, I don't remember a picture of me being angry, I don't know. And it's a good thing because, you know, it wouldn't be a pretty picture. Anger is a very destructive force. And anger breaks my inner peace. You know, it breaks my inner sanctuary, my inner quietness, my inner ability to remain calm, of course. These are the contradictory forces. And what happened with repetition of anger is that it will break the room, if you want, of silence of the soul. And those people who are angry a lot on a repetitive process, ask them to meditate, and they will find it extremely hard because their head is frying. And if you try to put some nice cool water on it, what it does is psh. So those who meditate with steam coming out of the head usually are people who are trying to pour water on their anger. And it's painful because it doesn't go away. I've been angry in my life. I've met people who are angry. Anger can feed itself. Anger can auto-generate anger. Anger creates more anger. But anger destroys a part of the self, which is what they call sometime in New Age talk, the little child, the little voice inside that is pure and innocent. To remember children talking about how they felt when their parents were angry. They're scared, isn't it? Children, when parents can be really angry, children are really traumatized, they're scared. They run away, they hide. And then they feel again, they must be really bad. Mommy is getting really angry at me, I must be really bad. Dogs, by the way, behave the same way. I did the documentary on behavior of dogs, and they were showing us how, dog makes a mistake, you get angry. And the dog might think, oh, Mommy is really, really angry, so let's make another mistake because there's something wrong. It doesn't get it. That anger comes because he made a mistake. Usually they don't get it. So it's not a good teaching system to get angry too, because the dog just feels there's something so bad with me. Let me try to do something, to change my mommy's anger. So he will again do something wrong. Oh, she's more angry. Let me. It's like the system that shows us that when the dog is pulling the leash, what do we tend to do? Push it. And then the dog says, oh, there's a problem. Let me push it forward more. Dog doesn't understand. If you're pulling it back, it means I should not move forward. It doesn't understand that. So what they told us was, no, you have to teach with ham or food. No, but I did documentary on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had many dogs. But I learned that, and I realized I'm not thinking of me as a god, but I thought I may be a dog too because I respond to the same thing. So I'm sharing that because we are a little bit like that, And sometimes the anger, we will not understand from anger, and so we create more anger. And so that past that we created with anger will leave an imprint, a memory, which may not be very good. We may have said things to people. People may have said things to us out of anger. And usually they're not pretty. So tendency is the next day, if it's a short-term thing, you go by, I'm sorry, I didn't mean this and that and that. And so we apologize and we move forward. But the argument I would make is we haven't really changed the problem. We have forgiven, we have said, okay, we move forward, I love you, it's fine. The mark is on the self. The imprint of anger is on the self. And it will come again, and it will come again. And it will recreate or strengthen my mechanism to use anger next time I want to fix something. So anger is not an easy thing to go away. So again, how to change my relationship with the past at that time will be that I can't change what happened, but I have to heal the impact of what happened. And for that I need to restore that inner child, that inner innocence, that inner quietness, that inner silence in the self. And unless I really build, again, an inner, I would say, sanctuary, an inner sense of, beauty in my silence, everything connected with anger from the past will continue to harass me. And that's really my experience. Which means that if somebody really hurt me because of anger, fixing it or forgiving it or forgetting it is not about focusing on that situation. That has nothing to do with the situation. And when we say past is past, what we mean is that what was done is past. And what was done is not what I have to remember to erase it. What I have to remember is what has been broken. And if I remember what has been broken and start to fix it, then naturally what was done in the past will not bother me again. Does it make sense, or is it too magical trick for you and you wonder, is it really working, your thing?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on. She will give you the mic because we might have people online.
I'll shout.
You'll shout, but the mic will be better. It's a magic mic because we enjoy when some are online. I don't know if some are online now, but people watch it afterwards and they love to hear questions. And that gives me the chance to.
Okay. So my question is, you talked about, I just didn't get the part of when you're looking at the past, don't look at the past, look more about what broke you in the past.
What has been broken by the past.
So if your self-esteem has been broken in the past, you're looking at that.
Right.
And the benefit of that because you want to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, but the question is how to fix it.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good question. That is my next phase. I'm always keeping the solution for the end because I want people to be on the edge of their seat first, desperate to hear, is there a fix here? It's a sale technique. I used to to sell encyclopedias when I was, young and innocent, door to door. So you keep your solution for the end. Yeah, that's the question. And before I answer that question, I'll move into other things. But yes, that inner sanctuary to fix what anger has broken, that self-esteem to fix what abuse or violence might have created. And we can go on, there are many, many damages that have been caused by the past. And not only what has been done to me, but what I have done. If I have done things that were weak, or cheap, or dishonest, what did I break in me? What did I break in me? Whenever I don't know, for me, I know I use this session sometimes as a therapy, but I don't mind sharing things. But I used to be, I would say, in France, we say that those from southern France, they have a very strange habit to always exaggerate things. And we say people from Marseille, when they fish a fish, it's always big like that. We don't know why, but it's always bigger than reality. And for strange reason that only psychotherapy will probably reveal to me, but I used to tend to be like that a little bit, exaggerate always, and it's funny lies. And then one day, many, many years ago, must be 15 years ago, I decided one day, can I not lie at all, like about anything? Can I just be straight? And I thought, well, my jokes would be boring, and my stories would be boring if I don't exaggerate them. So I tried to look at why would I lie at the first place? They're little things, they're just little things. But if I look at what it is, they may reveal something else. And actually it was connected. That was my own personal thinking. Maybe psychologists will not agree with that. But my conclusion at some point was that I was just scared not to be loved. And it changed the day one person told me, Eric, if you say the truth about you, people will still love you the same way. And she said it in such a kind of way like this, that I went home with this and I thought, whoa, what did she mean? And then I really, really thought about it, which means if I don't dress up things or make it up or exaggerate things, people will still appreciate me. And I realized that tool was not from southern France that I borrowed it. It was just from my inner psyche that was scared of not being loved enough. And I thought I should do extra, so people really, really, really love me. And I realized, oh wow, how to call it in an affective compulsive disorder, something like that. There's a situation where you behave strangely just because your affective needs are not met. Many, many behavior are born from that dysfunctionability. And so at that time I realized, okay, now, I did so many things in the past, I'm not going to think about it. And I realized what I needed to nurture was my sense of self-love. That I don't need to expect love from others. And the reason why I expect others to love me so much is because I don't have much love for myself. And if I were to talk to myself alone, it wouldn't be in such a loving way. It would be just more like an old couple. Come on, don't you do this? Or you didn't take the garbage out? Come on, I asked you 3 times. Oh, wow, you didn't cook again tonight. I asked you last night, you didn't cook again. Come on. I think I would talk to myself that way and realize that me and me were not making a loving couple. And I thought, why am I not in love with myself without being narcissistic? It's a different story. And so I relearned to love myself, to talk to me nicely, to have empathy for my own weaknesses. And what I realized is that naturally doing so made me behave differently without seeking love from other people, without doing extra little artificial jumping around just to attract attention. And that what came out was authentic, was real, was just the story. But I didn't have to work on each one of these things. I just had to work on self-love. So, again, I could add a lot more examples. And so the argument I would propose is that on the journey, healing anything that comes from the past, which could cause hurt in the present, has to be done. And the method is actually quite simple and quite loving and quite pleasant to do. And it will involve using the good things of the past. Because good things of the past usually are just a little window on that nice part of me that wasn't broken at the time. My self-esteem that was there at that time, engaged in a relationship, made that relationship beautiful. And if you think about it, if your relationship is beautiful at that time when it is happening, when you're in love with someone, try to prove me wrong. I'm always thinking, I'm wrong, it's fine. I can be open to discussion. But if you remember the moments where you were, as we call it, madly in love, must have happened, no? Not with the dog or something, right? With human beings. Remember a good relationship where you really were really high, in that relationship. I would be pretty sure that at that moment your self-esteem was at its highest. The next day when the person doesn't call you back, that may be a different story. But at the moment where you feel that love and connection and the moment of happiness, not the moment next day of worry and doubt and maybe I didn't put my hair properly, so that's why he's not calling back, it's just in movies. The moment where the love was burning, am I right that at that time you were pretty, okay with yourself? You cannot feel that great moment of love in profound self-doubt. It doesn't really happen. Temporarily, what love does is that it lifts you up. And if somebody looks at you with magic eyes and a rose and a nice dinner and romance and beauty and real sentiments from the heart, and tell you what people say to each other when they love each other, they wouldn't say, "You're so bad, do you see your nose? I mean, such a big nose, but I love you." You don't talk like, unless I'm from the wrong culture, but you don't talk like that. And you love someone. When you love someone, you highlight nice things, and you see amazing things in the other person. The other person that might have thought of herself or himself as weak or broken, when somebody loves that person, they say, "Yes, you have such a strength." And you, "What? I feel I'm so weak, but you see strength in me?" "All right, I feel strength now, good, I love you too." But love is magic, isn't it? So part of healing the past is actually recollecting also gems from the past and starting to think that these one, I need to focus on these. Because we forget the good ones sometimes and remember the bad ones, when we should actually do the reverse. We should just remember the good ones. And technically speaking, it's to forget about the bad ones, but you can't. So the first thing to do is to revisit the past and to recreate another story of my past based on the good things that happened to me. Because I would argue that for 10 bad things you may have done, bad being subjective, of course, and proportional to your conscience. For 10 things that you did wrong, I'm sure you can find 100 things that you did right. And usually the balance in the self is more good than bad, for most of us. When it's not like that, you wouldn't be here tonight. You'd be seriously in different kind of therapy and in different condition, honestly. So most of us tend to say, "Oh, that is so bad." Yeah, but you did 10 good things that you totally forgot about it, that you didn't realize you did. You might come late once in a week at work and feel bad about it, but you came on time, 4 times. So what do? Bang ourselves for being late once. And don't give us any praise or any recognition or any appreciation for the 4 times that we were on time. Isn't it? If you're healthy in the morning, you never say to your body, "Oh, I'm so glad you're healthy today. It's good. Are you sure? No need, that's fine. Oh, boom, everything's fine." And we never say, "Oh, today I'm so happy I don't have a cold." Is it? I do say that sometimes. But the day you have a cold, what do? That's the end of the world, you know. And then we almost feel we wish we can go to IKEA and change parts of the body and then get a new nose and a new something to get it fixed right away, but it can't. So changing impressions from the past also involves using the good impressions from the past and recollecting those moments from the past and honoring who was I at that time? Who was me that did go through that beautiful moment? Who was I so that these people were praising me? I remember pictures of my birthdays, and because I used to have great attachment or love or appetite, I would say, for a special cake. It was a fruit pie, you know, with the English yellow sauce, cream on it, and glossy little thing, and that was like, you know, that was it. So I got it for about 20 years in a row. You know, every birthday, every birthday cake, I knew in advance what it would be. It would be a fruit pie again, you know, with peach and raspberries, strawberries, this glossy little thing on coating on it, and this gelatin and the creamy little English thing in it. That was so delicious. I didn't mind. I liked that, but it would be there every birthday. And now I can look at those pictures, and sometimes I would look at them and say, oh, it's just so silly. And one day they put me, I remember, feathers of a chief. I don't know why they put that on my head. And now today I look at the same pictures, and what I'm searching for is how much love people were giving me. Did I forget that? Or do I just remember the pie and the feathers or something? Can I recollect the love of my mom? I was young, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Can I recollect the love of my mom? One of my most amazing memory, to be honest with you, was the day I was 13, here in Montreal. My mom was working for L'Auto-Québec, and small job, simple job. But one day I asked her if I could pick her up at work. I said, well, no, you do your homework and this and that. And plus, I don't like you to come late, you know, to pick me up alone in the subway or something. But one day I insisted, and she said, okay, you can pick me up tonight. And I still remember today. I forgot so many days at school, particularly what they taught me. But that day I remembered. I remember so clearly spending the whole day thinking only about one thing. Tonight, I'm going to pick up my mother at work. And I was so proud. And so I bought a flower, and I was waiting. I remember Place Dupuis, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I still remember today the dress she was wearing, blue, beautiful dress. And I remember her coming and being so proud of, oh, I'm picking up my mom, you know, and I have a flower for her. And I still remember the other workers telling me, oh, this is your boy. Oh, he came to pick you up. And I was so, you know, putting my white shirt, and I was clean, and I was so proud of, I'm picking up my mom. I'm taking her back to home, you know. And that moment, you know, one day I realized it was forgotten for many years. And only when I came to Raj Yoga and I was hearing about, you know, remember the days of your childhood, I went back to that memory and I was crying. I was thinking, wow, yeah, that was one of the most beautiful days of my life, just picking up my mom. And that love, to me, is the method to heal. You know, because that love is so powerful. Because that little boy, I think I'm still that little boy. You know, deep within, it's still there. And I hope it's still there. And if it's not, it's because I've forgotten about him. I didn't feed that little boy. I didn't allow that little boy to remain a little boy and to continue to believe in such a pure thing, in such a pure relationship. Because of, you know, broken relationships and disillusions and ego and all kind of things. I forgot that relationship is that pure, and we can still live it today. So that aspect of the past, which is beautiful, I would feel needs to be reignited. needs to be recollected, because we are holding it until we die. And I think when we die, I mean, it's not very, don't worry, it's not tomorrow, but the day it happens, I think we should leave happily, knowing how many amazing moments we went through on this earth, in this body. And all the bad ones, not that we're ignoring them or denying them, no, or repressing them, no. We've healed them. We've really worked at it so that the traces are gone because of the work we have done on ourselves. And yes, those things may have been bad, but we're not holding anything negative from those past memories. The other method we use is creating that connection with the self on a very spiritual level. So we start to see ourselves in a very high way. And the method we use in Brahma Kumaris, and I won't go too long into it because it will be long, but it's about what we call creating soul consciousness, the awareness of the soul. And we feel that when we say to ourselves, I'm a soul, I'm a spiritual being in the physical body, we're changing the parameters, we're changing the dynamic of who I think I am. It will come to the same thing. I'm a soul, and in my life I have a wonderful mom and I went to pick her up. The story is the same. But suddenly is I, the soul, is going through my life. And I, the soul, what kind of soul am I? And then we start to think that I, the soul, I'm a living being. And I'm a very beautiful being. Because soul is amazing. And in this life, in this body, I went through a lot of things. But what about the soul? The soul remains there, and that's why most people believe that deep within ourselves we are a part of God, isn't it? They say sometimes the soul is almost like a part of God. And they think that the soul is connected with the divine. It would be very strange for people to hear that the soul is broken, or the soul is impure, or the soul is dirty. Technically maybe, but the connection we create with the soul is usually a positive one, isn't it? So we create that experience in meditation, that I am a soul, and I, the soul, I have an original state of being, which is peace, love, truth, happiness, power, beauty. These are my natural qualities. And so when we project the self with that vision, we feel that this is part of the healing. Because it reaffirms my highest, not even self-esteem, but we call it self-divinity. There's self-dignity and self-divinity. Not that I think of myself as a god, but I recreate the highest vision that we can create for life. We just recreate the, I really like that word in English, the reverence. And I love that word, like reverence for life. Isn't it? Is it a proper word? Reverence. You just feel so like, yeah, wonderful. It's a dignifying relationship with life, thinking that life is such an amazing thing. How can I spoil it with the lower vision? Why should I not look at myself as I'm a living being, and on earth, compared to a little piece of carpet, with all respect carpet, if you can hear me, compared to a little piece of carpet, I think I'm worth a little bit more, because I'm a living being. And that living being, then based on your belief systems or where you come from, you might argue that it's part of God, it's connected to God, it's originated from God, or something like that. So everyone has different beliefs. In Raja Yoga, we don't say it comes from God, but we say it has similar attributes than God. The soul, in its purest and highest form, has very similar dimension as what we refer to as God usually. And in our spiritual practice, what we do is called yoga. And yoga is actually a way to connect. Yoga means connecting. Or reliare, religion, is the same root. It's reconnecting. So meditation is about connecting with my original self, my highest self. And sometimes we feel that if there is a Supreme Being, that connection with the Supreme Being is a very healing connection. It's like going to a spa where you just lie there and you let God do the work. And they say, you know something about me? Well then, go ahead. And I will close with this image that came to me recently where, again, somebody was sharing to me how bad he felt about his life. Really, really bad thing. He did so many terrible things that he feels some mornings he doesn't want to live anymore. And I said, well, I was really, what do you say at that time? And just when that email came, I was receiving I subscribed to a category of photographic reports, and it was about the most beautiful ceilings in the world. And I love photography. I think it's very nice. So I was watching these ceilings from different cathedrals or temples or churches, palaces, and there are amazing ceilings in the world. And the thought came to me that, a ceiling that would have been built in 1600 century, it's very, very old. But after time, people felt this is out of fashion. So on top of that ceiling, they would have put some, how do you call it, plaster, and reshape it differently, just to say to be more modern. I mean, look in Montreal, we've done that quite a bit. We just toned down beautiful buildings, and we put concrete blocks, and that was called art. And today it's called eyesore. So it depends on the timing of the history, but we did that. We really created. The concrete became a fashion at some point, and they thought concrete was the latest, most beautiful thing in the world. And today we think, no, that is a bad judgment call. So imagine that ceiling that has been covered with 1, 2, 3, 10, 15 layers of different kind of fashion-like modern ceilings. And on the last ceiling, it's all black. There's a chainsaw, people being cut in pieces, blood everywhere. Because this is fashion, horror. The house has become a horror house, for a museum of horrors. And so then you look at that ceiling and you see, this is really ugly. I mean, this is the most ugly ceiling I've never seen. But if a godlike being comes through with very piercing eyes, he would say, this is one of the most beautiful ceilings you can ever imagine. And I said, I don't see it. I said, no, you have to remove the layers. And so in us, all the layers of what we have done, what we have gone through, have been added up, and they've been hiding the original truth that is in the soul. And part of the journey on the spiritual level is to just remove those layers and start to believe the unthinkable. The person who loved you at some point may have told you beautiful things. You are the most like this in the world. Now tell me the truth. Is that same person still telling you that today? Or have they changed their song and are singing something else now? What did you do last night? You were not here yet, no? What happens? Just joking. I'm sure that some parents are still telling beautiful things to their kids, 50 years later. I have a dad, and I love him so much, and I always feel funny when you are, getting close to 60 years old and still calling someone dad, because he's really old, and I'm getting old, physically. But I love that beauty of the word, dad, papa in French. It's very, very sweet. And it seems like when a kid calls an older person who is 30 years old, papa, it's one thing. But I never imagine that at, a much later age, you would still call that person papa. And still that dad will still be dad, after all these years. And that little intimacy that only a dad and a son can know about will still be there. Even though we are really older and normally we don't talk about, he doesn't put me on his lap anymore. I hope so, not at our age. But that magic between dad and the son is still there. So I think that original sealing, that original truth in the soul, if somebody were to look at you today and say, do you know that you are one of the most incredible souls in the whole universe? That you have such a capacity to love, you can love everyone. And say, no, I love only 7 at the moment. How can I love the whole world? It's not possible. But the one who sees through, will say, no, I know, scratch a little bit, and you'll see what happens. So and to finish on the answer to the question is, the process would be called actually scratching, which is meditating. And it's like digging into not the past that we know of this life, but the past of the soul as an original being. And we believe that the soul in its original state of being is an incredible manifestation of life in its most beautiful way. And part of the healing is to start to believe that we can be divine beings. And by divine, I'm just meaning having no bad feeling for anyone, having no negative attitude in any circumstances, and being just like a good, wonderful, really old grandmother to the world, loving everyone so much that the only thing you care about when someone comes to you is, what can I give you? Oh, I have something for you. You know, grandmothers are like that. Is it a bit like that, you know? So recently I played with a thought, for example. I realized that there were some people with whom there was less natural love. And although I've been working on it for a long time, I still feel, why is it not that I feel more love again today? So one day I declared something that I never used as a thought before, and it was, okay, let me go the other way. Let me pretend today, as for now, all my, what we call karmic accounts, means all my bad connection with anyone is over. It's a day of peace, you know. We just how do you call it? Armistice, when you just declare peace, and then you say this is the end of the war. And I just started to create the thought, I have no negative connection with anyone at all anymore. And the next thought was, yeah, you're kidding, right? And you don't show up. I don't ask you anything. I'm talking lovingly to myself. I'm in love with me, and we're totally agreeing that from now on, my relationship with everyone is just fine. There's nothing from the past left to settle. It's all settled. Finito. Terminato. And to be very honest with you, I know it's very recent, but it's wonderful. It's really, really pushing the relationship with everyone at a totally different level. And I believe that thoughts can have such a power that if we were to just think, I am a very divine being, that thought will create the reality, instead of waiting for a few centuries to become that divine being. So the thought has to come first. And so we can create those thoughts. I, the soul, I'm a very loving soul. I love everyone. And I know your next thought will be, well, not really. But tell that thought to just watch you. You know, tell them, yeah, watch me, see. I will have love for everyone. To create new future, you know, by changing how we feel about ourselves. So seeing the self differently definitely is going to change how I use the past to make me think who I am today. So I hope it makes sense. If not, well, tell me, and I'll change my mind tomorrow. I'm trying to say something else. But I hope you got some, at least one or two thoughts. Do you have any questions or any thoughts or any thoughts you want to share? Or no? Just silence? Anyway, this lecture is on YouTube as well. So if you want to sometime listen to it again to just reaffirm certain things, I found could be useful. And I'd love to invite you to a short meditation to just recapture these thoughts and experience in the form of meditation. And meditation is really just to sit quietly and pay attention to how we think. You may want to actually keep your eyes open, so it's very natural. It doesn't feel like you're going away, but you're. And I know it sounds different. Most people prefer closing their eyes, but sometimes closing your eyes might take you into a dream, which is a bit different than meditation. And to just feel fresh and awake and alert, it's like you keep your eyes open and you're a little bit daydreaming. You can stare at the candle, the point behind, or nothing, just keeping the eyes. It's a muscle, so you leave the muscle neutral. So just staring at whatever is in front of you, keeping the eyes very relaxed. Just start to feel how the body can relax very, very simply. I just pay attention to our breathing. We can breathe deeply. And we can feel how the air comes into the body and comes out of the body, generates a cycle of life physically. Enjoying breathing deeply. And naturally I can move my attention to my mind, which is also breathing with thoughts. Thoughts become the natural breath of the soul. I'm constantly thinking. But how many times do I pay attention to the quality of my thoughts? So I use my mind to create beautiful thoughts. I look at the past and I create the thought that whatever happened in the past, whatever is it that I carry from the past, I will welcome it and I will think about it in such a way that my past becomes a beautiful treasure. It becomes a source of inspiration, a book of lessons, the greatest teachings of life have been recorded in my past. And I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to move forward. I'm willing to heal. And I'm willing to accept my past as a means to move forward faster, higher. I feel that I have the capacity to transform all the impressions created by my past. I can use my past. I can take benefit from my past. And whenever I see a beautiful moment from the past, I take some time to revisit that particular moment. It's like nurturing a part of me which is true. And that truth from the past, which brings joy, which brings love, happiness, that part of the past, that part of truth is still here within me right now, in the present. And that beauty in me, the laughter, the joy, the love, continues to live and grow. So I'm now completely at peace with my past. My past becomes my friend. And even if at that time it didn't feel right, or it was unacceptable, today I use my past to move forward. And I know that everything that happened in the past had to happen. So now I'm ready to be at peace with my past. And experience the present moment fully. So, a short meditation, but just to give you a taste of what we can do sometime for an hour, 2 hours. Some films are very nice, and they're long, but they're very nice. So some meditations are very nice, long, and some are very nice, very short. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for coming here. I know sometimes there are little obstacles with parking. I don't know if anyone had to spin around a little bit. But thank you for being here. If you had trouble parking, next time if you come closer to 6:30, it's free on Saint-Denis on that side, so you don't have to worry. You just can park around 6:30 and then enjoy, come here a bit earlier, meditate, walk a little bit if it's nice. And yeah, otherwise, might see you next Friday. So next Friday is future, but at that time it will be the present. So we'll talk about it. Good night.